Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. We've got player props on Tuesday, only 4 games to choose from, including one that has Ja Morant coming back into it. So we'll see how that impacts that Grizzlies and Pellies game. We are coming off a clean sweep of the player props last night, Nate, 4-0. Very happy. Needed to really right the track with the player props. We were hovering around 500, but we both know we're better than that. So happy to kick off what should be a nice streak, a player prop run here moving forward. Also have best bets up for you, so like and subscribe. Check out each and every video we're bringing you this weekday, this season, during these weekdays of the NBA. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Use that prop finder tool up there to see all of the juice that you can get from each of these books, giving you bets. Make the best option there. Get all of the odds in your favor. Nate, let's go ahead and get into your first NBA player prop, Devin Booker, who's been very good to this show.
Yes, he is a very good player. And we're talking over 36.5 points assists against the Blazers. A game I actually highlight for the over. I think the Blazers offense is a little underrated right now with Anthony Simons back, but that compromises their defense a little bit. So in their last 6 with him back, they have a 125 defensive rating. They have allowed the most points per game to shooting guards in that span. And on the, in that span as well, 27 points, nearly 10 assists to point guards. Whichever position you think Booker plays right now. I mean, I guess it's point guard, especially with Bradley Beal out again. Grayson Allen is hobbled with a hamstring. For what it's worth, I mean, he's going to play, but for what it's worth, Booker's usage rate is 6% higher when Grayson Allen plays. I don't think that's anything. I mean, what we're looking at is just Booker putting up numbers regardless as the main facilitator and scorer for this team. Even in 3 with Beal this season, 31 points, 9 assists on 31.5% usage. He's topped this on average in his last 7 here, 29 points, 8 assists per game. Recently some tough road matchups for him where he went under at Toronto, at Lakers. Prior to that, over in 4 of his previous 5 roadies, averaging 30 points, 9.2 assists per game, going way over that. I mean, some of those were at Utah. It's just a pathetic defense, but the Blazers have limited assists in general. But I don't think that this is a good matchup for them. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon, old, a little long in the tooth, I think, at this point. Simons, just not a good defender. So I expect them to just kind of go at DeAndre Ayton and pick and roll and stick it to their former teammate here. And that's why both my player props are from the Suns here.
Yeah, that's fine. I feel what you're saying. I do like the Booker points and assists. I don't know. If Bradley Beal's in there, I might even like it more because he's just going to get more assists, to be honest. He dimed up like crazy into like only however long they played together in a game. He went bananas with the assists, and then I think Beal got hurt. Anyway, I like it regardless of who's in for either team, honestly. You could tell me anybody's out, Grayson Allen or whatever. And I think Booker and the point guard on this team should have some decent success against a really good perimeter defense. We should be clear, but Booker's not like sitting back there like Clay and relying on step back threes or sidestep threes to get his points, right? So I'm going to go with a bet that both my player prop bets, Nate, are a little bit dependent on what happens with the injury report for these teams. The first one here is Derek White, over 19.5 points and assists. And it's like a scenario where it's like, well, if Kristaps is out, he's doing that. If Kristaps is in, he probably isn't doing that. But he still could. That's the thing. So in the 16 games he's played with Kristaps, he's gone under this number 10 times, right? Only 6 for 16 in terms of going over, getting 20 points and assists combined. With the 6 that he didn't play, he went over 100 times, 100% of the time, 60% of the time. It works every time. And then he has gone over, like I said, and is averaging 19.5 points per game, which is what his points and assist prop is at. His assists also go way up from 4 to 7 without Kristaps, right? And it seems weird that the point, we've talked about it a little bit before, but I'll reiterate it. The reason is that he is not the true point guard when Kristaps is on the floor. The point guard, for all intents and purposes, is Jason Tatum playing a pick and roll with Kristaps Porzingis. When he's not out there, you've got ball movement. You've got Derek White bringing the ball up the floor. You've got him running pick and rolls, maybe with either of the Jalens or the Jays, Jason or Jalen, or even Papa Al at that point, because he's also an obviously amazing picker when he's actually in. But like if Kristaps is in, then everything just changes. The whole offense changes. So I think either way, like you're going to get some good Derek White minutes without Kristaps. He's questionable. They're going to be on a back-to-back tomorrow. You mentioned it in the other video that like Kristaps is going to be way more helpful against the Sabonis Kings than the Kevon Looney, Dario Saric playing center for the Warriors, right? Like, it makes sense. I do think they care about winning this game against the Dubs a lot, so I could still see him playing, but it's just such a stark contrast because of a very clear, valid reason why Derek White is so much better with Kristaps off the floor. So he could still get the 20 points and assists with Kristaps in there. That it's worth hitting it because it's going to go up as soon as Kristaps, if and when he's completely ruled out.
Yeah, because you got to figure Al Horford's not going to play on a back-to-back tomorrow.
Right.
So the Celtics, and they've ruled Luke Cornett out for this one. I don't know if you have the without splits for Derek White and Luke Cornett. No, I'm just kidding. So they won't have a big. They know they don't have a big in Sacramento tomorrow if Horford's playing tonight. So yeah, you might want to hold Porzingis out and make sure he's fresh for that one.
That's fair, yeah.
I'll take another European big and another Phoenix Sun here. Yusuf Nurkic. I mean, the juice is tempting here for 16 rebounds and assists. I know I'm now taking two different Suns to go over with assists against a team that's, middle of the pack in terms of allowing assists. Portland, I will say, has allowed a lot more assists in their last 4 or 5 games with Anthony Simons back, with that elevated, pace and scoring that I'm talking about as in the best bets as well for them to top their total. And we'll throw out there that I like Jeremy Grant over 22.5 points on that side of the ball. But for me, I mean, taking Nurkic is a lot about just fading DeAndre Ayton. In the last matchup, the first matchup between these two teams after they swapped places here, these centers, Nurkic goes for 18, 12, 4 blocks while dominating, if you will. He was a plus 17. Ayton was minus 33. So, I mean, Josh has looked up that Ayton has the lowest free throw rate among any center in the league. So very low foul trouble risk for Nurk. And when he avoids foul trouble, I mean, Phoenix is happy to play him 33 plus minutes. Per 36, he averages 13 rebounds, 5 assists. He's obviously been going off on the boards lately against, some really soft opponents like Washington. 16 rebounds per game in his last 4, along with 4.5 assists. He's got a 20% assist rate on the season, a 20% rebounding rate. The offensive rebounding rate has really gone higher in the last 4 as well against those soft teams. And Portland, I mean, while they've been better offensively, still dead last in shooting percentage. So that leads to the 6th most rebounds for opposing centers and for the entire team. So Nurk, yeah, you could play it different ways here, but I just trust him to get some stats against Ayton.
Yeah, I would agree. You said dominating, if you will, and I will not, because that's not what he does. And on defense, it's interesting. Like, he's actually a good rebounder. We can't take that away from him. He is a good rebounder. It's not a very good defender. It's not very intimidating. And I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't lying to you. Yes, the only player at this point who has the only center with a lower free throw attempt rate than him is Papa Al Horford, for anybody who's playing at least 20 minutes and has played 15 games this season. Also on that list are Omer Yurtseven and Dean Wade. But we move on to my favorite bet here. I'm not going to tell you no on Nurk anytime he's in a revenge spot against Nate Ayton, something. I'll figure it out later. B-Pod, baby. We're going back to Brandon Podziemski on the Dubs there. If you haven't heard of him, he's a little white boy frode from Santa Clara, and he might be your definition of sneaky athletic, but it's working for him in the points and assists category. So over 14.5 points and assists for B-Pod, friend of the show at this point. He's trusted. Like you pointed it out the other day, he went for 19 after you called out that he was going to get 11.5 points. Our only win that day. It was a bad, sad day. But B-Pod is trusted. That's what it comes down to. He's not only in there for 35 minutes a game now, he's in there at the end. And he's not just in there at the end in crunch time. He's the point man. So when Draymond is out and Steph gets doubled, Brandon Podziemski is now the point man, right? Like, and what I mean by that is Steph needs relief. It's Brandon Podziemski's job to come get the ball so he can drive to the hoop and make a decision in a 4-on-3 as a rookie who hasn't even played that much. But Steve Kerr has chosen this dude to be the one that he's going to give consistent minutes to when guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody can't stay on the floor for more than 20 minutes. I'm sure he has his reasons, way smarter than me, but I would also be giving those guys a bit more run. Either way, for pods, moving forward, pods, up to 20% usage rate last 2 games. In the first game with Draymond out, it seemed like Kerr was still playing with the lineups. Pretty much everybody that wasn't Clay or Steph was getting about 20 minutes max because he was testing it out. Then his minutes start to skyrocket in the last 2. The usage rate jumps to 20%. The points per game jump up to almost 15. The assists are at 5 a game. He's at 5 in each of the last 2. The assists alone right now, and the rebounds, the assists alone at 3.5 is still a very good bet. Once again, slightly predicated on Chris Paul not playing. If Chris Paul's not in there, I like the assists alone a lot. If Chris at 3.5, if he is in there, I'm taking the points and assists to just cover myself because I think it's a safer bet with or without Chris Paul. That said, if Chris Paul doesn't play, all of those potential assists that Chris Paul has been gobbling up in the last 3 games, which has been 14 a game for him, they go directly, not all of them, but a good portion of them go directly to Pods, who has averaged 12 potential assists in the 2 games, or 3 games rather, that he's played without Chris Paul this season, going over this number in 2 of them, because in the first one, he just still wasn't getting any minutes yet on the team. But without him in the 3 games that he's played without CP3 this season, 12 points, 4 assists, and 3 of those were with Draymond. Right. So Draymond being out plus CP3 being out is like, this is the dude. This is almost the like Andre Iguodala type, right? Like get some offensive boards and be smart with the ball once we pass it to you after Steph gets doubled. Right. And that's what he's going to be. So with the usage, with the minutes, the fact that like, if he's sort of a backup point guard in a way, that is the position that gets the most points and stats against the Celtics is the point guard position, mostly because that's just not honestly, I don't know why. Maybe Derek White is the only weak point, but he's still an all NBA defensive player. So I don't have a really solid understanding of why they give up points to point guards, but that is where they're most vulnerable. And I think B-Pods is going to be in the right spots this time.
Yeah, I mean, first, don't despair about our Saturday show where we did like very quick research on a Friday night after doing NFL and only got one of those right while a full slate was going on, etc. But the point is, yeah, I mean, that was one thing that immediately jumped out at me is like Podziemski playing like 39 minutes and we're still listing him at 11.5 points for a Warriors team that plays bigs that can't really score, can't really get their own shot. So, I mean, absolutely, if we're talking about the Celtics being able to limit Steph and Clay with their defensive backcourt, somebody's going to step up, fill that volume, and it'll probably be the rookie.
Yeah, and if a guy like Jaylen Brown is guarding Podziemski, not that he couldn't shut him down, but I kind of see Jaylen Brown, taking a little bit of time off, looking at Pods across the way and being like, I ain't going all out on defense for this. So that almost helps us, I would say. But that is all the time we have for you in Play Up Props. So continue to follow along. Looking for another sweep here to start the week. I would even take 3-1 so we could get a little 7-1 track going. But we'll continue to fight for you with these props. We also got the best bets, so make sure you are checking that out. And until we see you next, happy betting.